Hey, everybody. GM, good afternoon, good evening. I am always amped up and excited for these episodes. Welcome to another one, Community with Co-Unity. I am your host, CEO, Dan Rodman, and I really enjoy these conversations because we get to dive into the whole world of community strategy. And there's so many different perspectives and ways to cut it and understand it. And this is going to be a fun one as well because I've known Lena for a little while, a really great friend, and have lots of good times together at different events and things like this. But now we get to think a little bit more around the world that I live in every day with projects and clients on the community front. So without further ado, I'll drop Lena on stage here and would love to get a little bit of a brief intro, and good to see you.
Hi. So good to see you, Dan. Thank you so much for having me. I'm also very, very excited about this very cool topic. I mean, I will explain later. Why I love
And straight off of the Uber too, like just straight from the Uber right to the podcast.
No, it's like it's impossible to get Ubers in Lisbon at this point because there's this conference and it's so expensive and you don't get one. And I took the train and then I tried to get an Uber from the train and that was still impossible. So I just walked very fast. But I managed.
Well, you made it. We're thankful you made it.
Yeah, thank you so much for waiting for me. I appreciate that a lot. And I can get started with a little introduction.
Who is Lena?
Who is Lena? Who am I? Yeah, I think as you say, we know each other for some time, and we actually met to someone who was like very much in the beginning part of my journey in community. I feel like my journey with community and Web3 is very much aligned. I entered Web3 in kind of building community around education for women, understanding how to like create technical education for women, how to like create a space where they feel safe to enter and explore Web3. I did that online for a year with like a lot of different boot camps. Then I joined HerDAO, where I worked for a year in just like running the whole developer program, all of the scholarships, the education, and just traveling the world, hosting many community events and doing global network of female developers, which was incredible, like an incredible experience. I met incredible women, so many smart, successful, accomplished women in the space, and just by showing up and walking up to like all of the incredible people and be like, hey, I'm doing this organization for women and I need more mentors. Can you become one. And then that's how I met everyone. And then I started working as a Devrel, first for Toucan Protocol, and then Toucan Protocol is focusing on carbon credits. They are in the Celo ecosystem, and through Toucan Protocol, I met the whole Celo team and fell in love with the Celo ecosystem, and then also moved into their Devrel team, where I am currently running the builder programs for like all of the hackathons. We have a program called Proof for Ship. I will share a bit about that probably later. And Devrel, for everybody who doesn't know what the Devrel stands for Developer Relations. There's a huge conversation about what that stands for, and I think everybody who works in Devrel has a little bit of a different definition. Some people, I'm a Devrel engineer, I have a technical background, but Devrel can mean everything. Like, I have a very interesting week, or like even months. I couldn't say like what week looks like the other, and like even with the months very different. I do marketing, I do a lot of community work, which means like being on Telegram, hosting live streams like this, a lot of operations, a lot of workshops. Sometimes I also get to like build some stuff. I get to travel a lot, and yeah, that's what I currently do. For everybody who doesn't know Celo, maybe just a very quick intro. It's an L2 on the OP stack. We have been around for 5 years. We used to be an L1. And we are focusing on payments and just in general user applications. We have like the infrastructure, very fast, very cheap for payment rails, also for AI agents. And we are focusing on Celo is, and I love that, it's like prosperity for all. And also like the name Celo means prosperity in Esperanto. And we have been focusing since the beginning and in building a lot of. Celo is focused on the global majority, and Celo has been building communities in Africa and South America and Asia for years, and has in front running like a lot of initiatives and when it comes to education. So yeah, very, very happy to share more about that later. I think that was already a super long introduction. So
No, it's all good. It's great, and I think I've actually got just to give a little bit of a roadmap for our time here together. I've got a couple of different questions, specific ones picked out that really do kind of match closely with elements of what you already explained and introduced, which is great to go deeper on those ones. Excited for that. And then there's a spot in the middle where we always share some sort of tool that's really useful for people, just to like, have a little tool time, share a little helpful element of there, and then as well as a framework. And oftentimes I used to pick certain community frameworks that have already existed, but I've gone through a lot of frameworks now and mapping out community, and so I've started to even invent some of my own frameworks and acronyms that match really well with the guest, with you. And so I think I'm excited to see what you think about this one. And
I'm so excited for that part because I think I haven't prepared for that.
Yeah. And then after that, we'll do a little bit of rapid fire questions, which is always fun, and we'll wrap up. But that's a bit of the plan. I think for me, a little bit more around yourself would be kind of cool to hear. I really think the element in your bio that you have of a professional people shiller is something that I would love to learn more where that came from. And I just feel it fits your ethos really well. So I'm curious.
I feel like, when you become a developer, everybody is like, oh, what's like your personality, like, or your online personality? And I feel like I understand to become like very famous, you have to be vulnerable and share things of yourself. But I feel like my whole job, or like the things that I enjoy, is highlighting the success stories of my friends and the people in my ecosystem, builders that I see. I think it's so much fun to like connect people, to introduce people to like their future, mentoring people, building community. It's just seeing people grow is my favorite thing. And then I just feel like my Twitter account is just like basically celebrating a lot of amazing people that do cool stuff. So it's just what you get if you follow me. It's just cool people.
Nice. And like, I guess even rewinding in time a little bit before Toucan, and that's actually funny. I actually didn't realize that you were Devrel at Toucan Protocol. But I'm curious to know even what was the first thing that even pulled you into this crazy industry, into Web3? Because it's such a great question for people because there's no university for it. Everyone kind of pulled in through different ways. So what was the hook that got you in?
I think for me, I studied digital humanities, which is social science and computer science, and I wrote my thesis about AI, ethical AI. And after I finished writing the thesis, which was my second bachelor thesis, so it was more like a master thesis. It was really long. My professor was really annoyed with me, and I wrote about like I figured out, okay, AI is kind of fucked. Like everything is like the whole infra is already built. Like everything was built by white men for white men. This is like not really inclusive technology. And then I had one course where I learned, like one seminar where I learned a little bit about decentralized technologies. And I was like, this is so cool. And like we designed our own decentralized social network. And then I found this educational program for women to get women into blockchain, and I signed up and I got in. It was so, I was very excited. At that time I was working as a front-end developer in Web2. It was not exciting. And just to give some background info, I would never consider myself as a nerd. I was more like the person that just is outside a lot and meet very social butterfly. And then suddenly I learned about blockchain, and it was also COVID, to be fair, but I would just spend every evening inside and like being in all of these different study groups and building our first NFT project with like a lot of women who also just like went into Web3. And it was so much fun. And for a year I just spent all of that time was also creating curriculums for women for them to learn tech, and we did all of these different blockchain courses together, and I made a lot of friends that I still have till now, and it was amazing.
Nice. Yeah, like it's something to be said about exploring new things with other people together, and the camaraderie that kind of builds when you're pioneering on this different elements. I think you spoke to this a little bit with Celo, and we can go into some of the Celo elements, like their mission of global impact and scaling real world applications. I feel like it matches a lot of your mission ethos of like inclusivity and like this component of serving underserved areas, and just like the global payments infra and even the way your journey in was kind of like an inclusivity element, and coming in from a space and understanding where there was I guess you could say almost like deserts of other communities not really being served, whether as women or certain countries or things like this. And now there's opportunity for more of this empowerment. Celo really sees a lot of that, is really pushing a lot of that vision. I'm curious to know, like, do you feel really excited and yourself really like empowered with Celo's mission and everything?
Yeah, like when I just went to Ghana, it was my second time going to Ghana, and I have been, even before I worked with Celo, I worked with her down. I had already met a lot of women that I was working with and hosting study groups with from Nigeria and Ghana and Kenya. And I went to Ghana, I met a lot of builders, a lot of incredible founders, and many of them, I hear so much, like, Celo was my first touch point with Web3. Like, Celo introduced me to Web3. And what we have been noticing and seeing is also like a lot of projects that started on Celo and then they explore different chains, and then they grow and they become a senior and they come back and they say, we just love Celo, we still want to work with Celo. And I think sometimes you feel you invested so much time into like education and supporting all of these founders from the ground up since 5 years, and then they leave. And the beautiful thing is to see it has a long-term impact, like knowing you have been the ecosystem that provided this ramp, kind of like to get shooted into the Web3 space, which is crazy. And that's always really nice to hear. So I think that's what always makes me very happy, like proud to work at Celo. And to like, it's also, I will get into that later. I think that's like answering another question, so I will not. But yeah, so I think it's just fun. I feel in my job I get to work with so many people from all over the world, so many incredible founders, and for me it's really, I worked in Web2. I worked in building things that don't matter so much, or just like this is like a capitalistic machine, and I'm like, it's very boring to me. So building something that people actually use and that adds some kind of value to somebody's lives, and it's not just something, it's important for myself to have fun in my work and enjoy my work.
Nice. Well, like, I'll give you a more kind of open one too, because I'm curious to hear some of the elements that you may want to steer towards. Like, what are you having fun with right now in Celo? Like, what's got you excited that you're working on at the moment?
Yeah. I mean, so we started in the beginning of the year. We did something last year that was kind of like the beginning of what we're doing this year. Last year we already had a series of hackathons that were like this, had the same name, and we're just like working with different partners because we realized we really don't like hackathons. Are great, and I still believe hackathons are one of the best things to onboard people, but hackathons are not really sustainable, don't help builders to grow, and don't have a huge output for protocols or ecosystems. So what we wanted to do is encourage builders to continue building out their ideas, to learn how to build a scalable app, how to onboard users, how to actually become a founder. And for that, we created this framework called Proof of Ship. We're using different tools for that, and we iterate every month to add new tools and to improve and automate, make it better for the builders, make it easier for us to maintain. And we scaled from like 30 projects to that now we have like around 100 per month. And it's just people who are interested in building on Celo. We have, I think, around 30 projects that just continuously build out their app. We have different programs with Celo Public Goods to reward those projects. Proof of Ship is kind of the entry-level project, and we really try to create a whole pipeline for projects to grow and scale, but impact-based. I think we all can agree, everybody who has been working in Web3 for some time, is that just giving grants and retroactive grants based on your idea and vision is very complicated, and we lose a lot of money basically, and we lost a lot of money. So what we're trying to build is a framework to do impact-based rewards, kind of reward you for continuously building, for onboarding users, for getting transactions, for getting volumes into your app. And so with Proof of Ship is kind of the first stage that projects reach, where they can build the MVP. As soon as they manage that, they can move on to Proof of Impact, where they can get rewards for the impact they have on chain. And then we have builder rewards. We have a lot of different reward streams that projects can use while they are building. And it is like, we automated a lot. We worked with KamaGap is our platform that we just use to have all of the projects, and then they provide the data for our different grant providers and our different infrastructure. Divi is a great program. Like, Divi is running Proof of Impact for us, which it's a platform, it's a framework for tracking and rewarding. It's kind of like a referral code that you can add to your referral code in Web3. And it's been really amazing to see how, what we also do is we provide technical, we have like an AI agent to provide technical feedback every month. And then we also have a lot of judges from our community, and we provide personalized feedback for all the projects that take part every month. And then we see, like, sometimes they don't apply it in that following months, but then 2 months later they actually apply it, and suddenly their app looks so much better, and suddenly they have users, and they improve the workflow, and then they collaborate with each other and host each other's quests and give each other user feedback. And it's been really amazing to see how that whole framework also brought out like a really strong build community that is very active. And I think what I said earlier, I felt the thing that brings you into, that keeps you in Web3 is the people you meet along the way. And I think the same comes to like building any kind of community. If there's nobody you can talk to, you will leave, right? And so it was really beautiful to see that.
No, that's really fascinating. And I've actually seen a very similar shift in a lot of other ecosystems and conversations I've had, where the realization or the dawning of, putting a lot of energy consistently into hackathons, there becomes a pretty big hackathon graveyard of projects where it gets a little bit kind of bounty based, and you get a little bit more of these kind of bounty hunter elements to certain builders who they're there for the rewards, and then they're not like sustained or don't have, like, to your point, even maybe the skill set and the ability to get that feedback to consistently build something and become more of an entrepreneur, more of a founder than just building small little things as well. I think that's super valuable that you guys are helping steer that and tracking that and making it very impact based. So that's really fascinating. I really like that. And it is the people that make you stick around the journey, the relationships. That's a big part of our kind of main ethos of the different elements that we go through as well, is what converts, attention, awareness, and audience into a loyal community member, into an advocate, into an ambassador, and what are the different conduits that can make that more sticky. Yeah, I guess, like, I'm kind of curious as well, knowing you and how you're so, like, supportive, I would say, of people, and like encouraging. How do you balance, like, pushing people also to like take action and to like ship, like, it's like a bit of that, balance of, you're doing really amazing, encouraging them versus like kind of pushing them like, hey, proof of ship, where's the ship at? I'm just curious.
It's a very good question. I just roast them. So like we have the builder showcase every month, and if people don't have a good update to show, I'm just like, okay, so like, what have you been doing? And like it's fun because it's like everybody's there and we all roast, and it's but it's very loving. Like nobody like, I feel like it's a nice way of making people aware of where you feel like they have some shortcomings, and it's like, I know, and sometimes I'm like, I don't see it, and then they explain me what they actually were focusing on, and I'm like, okay, it's a progress. But I feel yeah, I think that's the most fun way to do it, and the most efficient way. Sometimes I feel like you have to sit down and like have a proper session with somebody and be like, listen. And I feel like that is also one of my learnings from the last year. You can it's not, you have to ask something from people. You cannot just like give suggestions, because suggestions, that takes forever for people to realize and understand why those are useful. Sometimes you just have to say, okay, deliver, or it's not going to happen, and then they deliver. And I think and also like how would you deliver it? And I feel like because I'm so encouraging, it took me a really long time. I always want to support people. It took me a long time to realize they learn so much better if I don't provide all of that support. If I just say what's going on here, like you have to channel. If you don't take people serious, they don't take themselves serious, right? So I guess that's maybe my biggest learning from running communities and trying to support people in different ways. It's you have to challenge them for them to grow.
Nice. Yeah, there's the element of also like, empower, but also like challenge and push that empowerment that you kind of give them as well. I guess as you mentioned community, a little bit of a segue. This is a question that we ask every single guest that comes on. And it's a very simple, small question, which is, how do you define the word community?
I think it's a really good question. Like I was thinking about that, and what came to my mind first is really it's growth and support. I feel like if you ask yourself why would you join a community, right? To find people, but also like not only to connect. Yes, for connection, but you want to go. You have a goal of like reaching something. If that is find a support network for any kind of, like, if that's technology, if that's like arriving in a new city, but you also want to be inspired, right? You want to find something new, so you want to grow in a specific direction, if that is like in your social abilities, in your technical abilities, and if you are a community builder, that then you can provide that, and also a clear roadmap and understanding for somebody who wants to join your, like who you want to join your, who you want to invite to join your community. I think that's the most important thing, to like be clear in your message of what they can expect in the sense of growth and support.
Wow, that's a really refreshing answer. It's a little bit different than we get. I like it. It's the concept of, generally there's this element of the answer that comes in with wanting to be around the same people. And that's also where we kind of came from our name, like common unity, co-unity, like this element of a group of people who are all kind of moving in the same direction. But if you're having the sense of belonging that you often get from a community, you're often doing it with a group of people that you're trying to grow with, and you're supporting each other in that growth. So I really like that growth and support element. So I'll have to use that more. Nice one. Which then leads me, as I'm trying to just like get as much great insight from you and your experience with these things as well. I'm curious on what are some of the most underrated tips or strategies that you can share around community building?
I think so. When it comes to underrated for community building, I feel like we need to find the balance between, and that's something that I constantly am trying to figure out, is to find the right balance between like scaling a community and automating things. And you need to do that, right? To catch enough people to manage to create the right mix. And the right balance between this like genuine connection and the growth. What we do with the personalized feedback probably takes most of my time. If I would like talk about proof of ship, everything else can be automated. But if people need to be seen, you need to be either like on the ground, in the Telegram groups, in calls with people. If you don't do that, then people don't stick. And also understand how can you scale that, because like I can talk to 100 people. How, and we at Celo, for example, we have regional DAOs in Latin, in Africa, in Europe, and Asia, that help us with that, because we are not able to, I feel like there's a lot of studies of like how many people you can keep in your mind and close to your heart, and even like for my builders at one point, it takes some time. It just reaches a limit, and to understand how to scale that, how to find the right people. I feel like you mentioned ambassadors. I think in general, people that you want to work with is so crucial to find people who have the same values. And I think when it comes to the values, I always think people who want to see other people grow are the best community leads. And you have to find those people. And if you find those people, you should pay them a lot of money because they put so much of their own energy and they are so drained every time. And they put so much energy into making other people successful. And I think finding those people is the most crucial things to build a successful community.
I love that. Yeah, it makes me think a lot about just this ethos that we often recommend when you're starting a new community, you're starting something early on, the importance of setting that early culture, right? Because the people who come into your community first, they set that tone. They set that example. Then when other people join the project or join the Discord or the Telegram, they see the way that the conversation's being held, and then they model and understand what behavior is acceptable off of that. And so if you set that early bar and that early great culture and value alignment, as you kind of alluded to there, it starts to attract more of that, which can then snowball. And to your point, then keeping your early eye on this breakdown, I like to think of it a lot of the 99 and then the 1, right? Where you have 90% of your community might be mostly just kind of consuming and looking to grow together and get some support, but mostly on the consumption side. But then you've got maybe 9% that are contributing a lot. They're really helping move people. They may have a lot of messages, they may be participating a lot. And then you've got 1% who are just super fans. they're the ones that how do you empower them more to being community leads, being ambassadors, and empowering them to give them a little bit more leverage or funding or resources, because they're going to bring in more of the 9% and trickle down to more of the 90 type of thing. Yeah. So I really like that component. That makes a lot of sense. I'm curious then to know then more tactfully, because you're a part of a variety of different communities, if there's any examples that stand out from, I know Women in Ethereum Protocol or HerDAO, or just the event with Accra where you just were, any sort of community examples or things that stand out with lessons learned recently?
I mean, Accra was incredible, right? To see the growth, it was the 3rd edition. It was my 2nd time there. And to see, I think when you grow a community, there's several factors that are very necessary. It's to make sure that I think Accra, the best example is just for to create something where there's a need for, right? And then is compared to last year, it was double the amount of people. We had to rent more accommodations, and the builders day was we had the builders day for the first time, and it was so full, the whole room, people were standing. It was incredible, and to see that, I think my main, one of the main takeaways from all of the communities that I think are successful, HerDAO, Celo Africa DAO, Accra, it's consistency. It takes time and it takes so much effort, but the longer you are around, the more people trust you, the more you get recognized, and I think that is, consistency is one of the most, and so hard, because you have to stay with your values. You have to understand who to partner with, who understands who aligns with your values, because choosing the wrong partners is always not the best strategy. And so I feel consistency, but you also need so many allies when it comes to community work. I would say community is what makes something a success or fails it, and still communities don't it's so hard to measure community, and that's what we're also trying with our Devrel work a lot, and supporting the regional DAOs also in understanding how they can better showcase their work, right? So I would say less a recent example that I've been seeing, but more just like a general advice. There's a lot of amazing tools now that help you measure your community in impactful ways and connect them to GitHub and on-chain activity that can help you also showcase your work more. Will also help you, like those tooling will also help you focus your work more and understand what your outcome from your work is. In my experience, it was actually really helpful building this framework for proof of ship, and it was also helpful for our communities understanding more what our goals are. Setting KPIs, communicating them clearly to your community. I think Base does it really well with the ambassadors of setting really clear KPIs. Because what we see a lot in community work is that if people don't have a clear direction, there's a lot of mismatch between what is expected and what people think for themselves is really useful, because there's always something that is useful and you will always play into your strengths. But having this clear, defined, and providing the tools for people to like understand how to reach that, I think that we reached a point of having more of those tools and frameworks that help communities actually get rewarded for their work, because it's such a crucial work, and all communities that I know are constantly underfunded. So how do you bring this together of like the most important work actually get rewarded for their work, right? And so,
yeah, I'm really curious to go deeper on that element of, what metrics stand out to you? Like, what do you look at from a metric perspective, and what would be like maybe some of your favorite tools that help you in that?
So working now, it's like I joined Celo in the beginning of last year, so now it's like 1 year and 8 months, and working with the builders, working with proof of ship. One thing that my team also has helped me realize, like that we really understood together, is we need to push people to iterate and test, right? So I've had developers who were building something for 6 months without ever having anyone test that. And with vibe coding now, with like all the tools that we have at this point, you should build something in a month and then onboard users. Even if it's like 3 or 5 or 10 users, just onboard them. Use Mainnet. Celo is so cheap. You pay like, you can sponsor the gas fees and you don't spend like more than $10. Like it's nothing. But like that, you have the real experience. Obviously, if you have a DeFi protocol, that's like a bit risky. Maybe get it audited before. But even like, if you have close beta, they know what they're doing. They trust you. And I think it's just pushing people to get user feedback, to test the applications. That's like my main advice. And the tools that we use for that is, as I mentioned, KamaGap, and then we work with Talent Protocol. Talent Protocol basically takes the data that we have from KamaGap. KamaGap already tracks all of the transactions on Celo, also GitHub activity, and then we take all of that data, also how they learn to like present their project. We have judging and then we take all of that data, and then we have a very smart algorithm that we designed with Talent Protocol, and now we have a builder rewards board, and then you can basically see throughout the months how you progress, how you like reach higher ranks on the leaderboard, and it's a work in progress, I have to say. There's always reward for farmers. Like everything is a lot. It's very exciting to see that, and it's a really cool setup. I know base also has a build a reward spot, and I think it just live. I mean, and with the 24-hour delay, how your work has an impact, and like you have your first user campaign, and then you have a lot of transactions on users, and your score goes up, and things like that. I think that's very cool.
Fascinating. Yeah, no, really interesting. I think like understanding how to measure and track, like especially on the more developer and technical side, the builder side, is a difficult thing. Like understanding what those metrics are, and to your point, I think it probably does will shape a lot as like the ecosystem evolves, as tech evolves.
And the metrics are hard to define, but I think it's very clear. Like you want people to learn how to onboard users. Like, if you don't have users, your app is worth nothing. And for some DeFi apps, it might just be volume, but you have to be clear on your outcome and then communicate that to people, and they will find a way. And I think the main thing that I learned is if you reward people for the outcome, they will find a way to reach that outcome. Like that to reach that. You can give them so much advice, they will not listen. But if you say you get only rewarded if you do this, they will find a way to onboard users suddenly.
Interesting. Yeah, no, I think like balancing that element too with it's always a spectrum around rewards where when you gamify something or introduce rewards, you introduce elements for people to sometimes go too far down the road then of doing whatever they have to do to hit the number, and you maybe decrease on like quality. So balancing on the elements of still hitting your quality but still hitting the number and picking that in the right way, it's always a bit of like a balance in the game. And sometimes you do just have to put stuff out there and then see how well and see how effective it actually works, right?
And you will always have to like people are like, oh, you moved to Celo protocol and now things are still taking time. And like, it will always take time because people will always try to game the system. So every time we have to like recalibrate and reevaluate, but it's fun. I think it's a constant out gaming each other. It keeps you on your toes.
Totally. Yeah. Like, I think for me, Karma Gap, it's interesting hearing you bring them up because I remember putting updates for one of my grants when I was working with Pocket Network on community work almost 3 years ago, like 2.5 years ago. And it was like they were like shaping the product quite a bit then as well. I'd be really excited to follow up with their team and check in on them with it all. That's really cool.
Yeah, no, I feel like we work really closely with them and also like understanding how we can use it for that specific. And they have worked with Gitcoin, right? They already work with so many grants programs, and I think it's just good to have one central platform because you have so many ecosystems that use so many different grant providers, and everything is so fragmented. And then like the teams have so much fluctuation, and you can build in an ecosystem and you can come back 1 year later and nobody will know who you are, right? And through Karma Gap, you have this one central platform where we ask everybody who even applies for a Presenti grant or for Celo Camp or for anything, we ask them to have a profile there. So if you send me your profile, I can see you participated in proof of ship, you signed up, like you got a Presenti grant, you did this. Like I can see what different programs you touch. I can reach out to the people. I can and then I can go in your Celo protocol profile and see how many rewards you won and so on, right? And I think that also helps builders to gain trust in an ecosystem, right? Like I think we always talk about reward farming, but a lot of builders also get a grant and then nobody follows up with them. So why should they continue building? So I think there's also like a huge operational problem from our side. So making them feel supported, and if somebody feels like you're keeping tabs on them, they will keep working. If they feel like you don't text them often enough, they slack off. I mean, not that I can in any 100 projects, but it's nice. It helps us to like keep an overview about the project, see who falls out, who drops out, reach out to them and say like, hey, we noticed like your numbers went down. What's going on? Are you still building? What kind of support do you need?
That's fascinating because yeah, we're actually doing a lot of similar elements building. We have our own kind of ambassador management system, and it's mostly around ambassadors for content creation, like creators, to like educate more, as well as also a full flow for ambassadors who are hosting events and like hosting their own event flow. And then the third piece to it, really like the third kind of category bucket, is the builders. And to me too, that is one of the more complicated ones to track and progress on different things. But I'll have to give you a little sneak peek at what we've pulled together at some point.
I would love to see it. Yeah.
Give you a little bit of insight there.
Thanks. Yeah, I always think the person that figures out how to bring all of that together is like, imagine you can track, you can have an insight into what ambassador brought in what project and how they supported, like if they mentored this project and that project had like an impact, a growth, and then that ambassador gets rewards for that. And you can even like relate those projects to that specific ambassador and be like, that's a good one. Like that person should do BD, or like even work in a grant team because that person has the right attitude and like the right feeling. And building something like that, that's incredible.
Yeah, it'd be pretty wild because I think for me, one element that's always been something to chase or understand when you're in these larger kind of enterprise conversations is the topic of ROI of community, right? And tracking ROI for community oftentimes can be very difficult and hits a lot of breaks, because at the end of the day, it's often this element of word of mouth. We may be able to track that an ambassador held their own event, and we can see the certain amount of people who attended and whatnot and who they are. But then do we know that one of those attendees went home that day and then decided, I'm going to go invest into this project, buy their token, and then do something with it? There's always a bit of like this chain gap.
And it's unknown, even though now it's like on-chain and everything, we should be able to track it. Like we reached a point where it should be possible. And then to like understand, because I feel like so many people talk about the human layer, right? I feel like it was a huge topic when I went to Ghana. The IR people from IRHQ, they talk a lot about it. Like, how do you identify those human community nodes, right? Like you do, because they become ambassadors. But yeah, how do you support them in getting the rewards they deserve? And
yeah,
I think that's
cool. I'm gonna pull open this, like, I'm gonna share my screen and pull something up here. We'll like change gear a little bit and share the tool and jump into the framework. The tool's not something to go too crazy about. We've actually been sharing a lot of different tools for the community space. So I decided to shift gears a little bit. And this one is actually something that I myself just use every day a ton, and a little bit more just around efficiency. And there's two of them that you can actually use. I'm curious if maybe you've heard of these or not, but one's called Text Expander and the other one's called Text Blaze. So basically what these do is the Text Expander is a software that you actually download, and I think you have to pay like $3 or $4 a month for it if you pay for like the usable kind of version of it. And then Text Blaze, there's a free element to it. It's a Chrome extension. Text Blaze is the Chrome extension. And all it does is it lets you set up keyboard shortcut commands. And I use it a ton. Like I use tons of different keyboard shortcut commands. So if I press semicolon and then write a certain component, it'll help me write content. It'll help me fill in forms quickly. It's kind of like a bit of my brain, and also a bit of my prompt library is now saved into shortcut commands. So when I'm on ChatGPT or on Claude or Grok or whatever, I've got certain little shortcuts that will paste large prompts. Maybe it's like my context, like about me, like my bio, or maybe it's about CoUnity. I'll just use my shortcut keyboard command to like drop in a whole bunch of context on different sections in prompts. So there's my tool for the week. I'm curious, any thoughts or any questions on it?
I think that's so useful. I feel like I would need a study group or one session to set that all up, because I always think this would be so useful to have, and then I just don't find the time to set it up. But it will save so much time. It's incredible. I love that. Thank you so much for explaining how you use that. I'll keep using that.
You gave me an idea there as well, actually. So as I move into the next thing here, just on sharing the framework, last week we had on Brandon, and I shared a framework called like the 7 R's of retention, and it was like 7 different R's on how you can, build more retention in your community. And then I wrote like a little Twitter thread on it yesterday, actually. And then yesterday also I took the Twitter thread and I made a ChatGPT prompt where you can put in some information about your project or your protocol or your brand and who your community is, and then it will come up with 3 different ideas, or actually 5 different ideas related to each of the different R's of retention, and just make this big idea grid of like 35 different ideas that could help maybe build retention with your project. And I'm going to be sharing more of these. Actually, I think I can pull it up here as well in this little group. Here we go. This QR code. It's like my little Telegram group. And it's a GTC goodies group.
So I can join too.
Yeah. It's basically GTC is this concept that I'm preaching and pioneering a lot around go-to community strategy. And so this is going to be a series. I'm going to start sharing these different prompts. There's already one in there in that group. It's pinned as a Google Doc at the top. And it's another prompt that gives you a bunch of ideas to get started around your community. So I'm going to be uploading the retention one in there this week. And then next week, I'll probably be uploading one off of this framework that we're about to jump into as well. So I think from what you said earlier there around just like having all the prompts put together, it'd be interesting for me to also, I think, pull together a bit of a community strategy prompt library that people could set up their own shortcut keyboards for, or just kind of organize to be able to utilize. Might be interesting.
I have a question. How did you get started with using shortcuts? Because it's like I literally have like 5 shortcuts that I use, not more. And I know they are so useful. And I know when I started coding, I learned all of the shortcuts for like Visual Studio Code. And then I forgot half of them. So if you're building out your shortcut library, how it's a kind of like you have to get used to using it, no?
Yeah, definitely.
How do you?
There was actually a guy who taught a course on AI efficiency, and he's known as, I think if you just Google AI solopreneur, he was the one who showed me this, and he has his own prompt library on TextBlaze, which you can add into yours. And it's things like I know like semicolon AAA3 will like paste this like Twitter like thread template structure examples of like action-based threads, and can help like shape structure on different things from a content perspective. So I think for me, like I use little things like, I know if I just put semicolon like EM, it'll like paste my email. And it's just much faster than typing out my email. It just saves me like a tiny bit, right? And when you're going to conferences, as you're aware, and you're registering for a bunch of different events, you ask for your email like a million times. It starts to like, even get to filling in some of those different things kind of quickly, right? But yeah, I guess like it's a habit thing in a certain sense where it's like, what do you think about that? Like, I would almost audit an element of like, what do you do a lot each day that's somewhat repetitive? Whether it's even if it's not writing the exact same thing, is it still a certain action or a task? Is there something that's like an AI prompt that would help you with that? Can you then use like a template for that or a shortcut for that will help you with it? And I mean, in the future, I think we're probably going to all have like AI buddies and co-pilots that like will even extrapolate through a lot of this anyways. But, the systems help you as you go. But I guess I'll pull this off now. So yeah, I'd be curious to build this next one into a into a prompt at some point as well. I'll probably do a little thread on it the following week as well. But as I showcase this like framework a little bit, I'd love you to just think a little bit about like what's bubbling at the top of your brain, which letter stands out to you, what kind of comes to mind, and then I'm interested to hear your feedback on it. So the framework is empower. I figured it would work really well. I've said it a few times throughout the session here, and I think it matches really well your ethos of the way that you've empowered and inspired different people in the ecosystem and whatnot. And so it's a bit of like using each letter from empower to think about it and process, kind of remember elements of it. So the E is enable, which is how do you remove friction to the first action. And so this could be like making an intro or like making like the first small steps. This could be like prompts, giving people a prompt structure so they can put in their inputs and then it gives them an idea to start, like a little bit of the mapping, right? And the next one, M, is map, like around publishing roles and ladders. And like, as you mentioned, like this leaderboard component, understanding where people go from observer to contributor to builder to a lead, like what are the different scopes there? What is the actual pathway that they can go down? The P is provide. So this is like, what can you give them? Is there tools, little micro budgets, mentors, docs, things like this? As you mentioned, using these small grants, I think is interesting. And office hours, maybe like any sort of support, but even again, like the template prompt structure stuff could play in there. The O is on own. So giving people more ownership over those decisions and rights and like supporting them, of course, but then giving them that little bit of that autonomy for them to kind of drive themselves on their own to see where they go. And that then leads to W, which is win, which is really like, how do you recognize those outcomes and not necessarily straight volume and really spotlight it, like show the community their wins, like the progression, whether they're pitching at different times, like really like highlighting it and giving them that element of recognition. And then the E is just evaluating it all. So using, like, as we mentioned a little bit, these metrics, these components, so whether it's engagement, whether it's adoption, retention, whether it's an element of, the on-chain component of the users and the actions themselves. And then finally, it's repeat. So scaling what works, doubling down on, whether it's certain rituals or flows or events or elements throughout this that's working well, and just killing the ones that don't work. And rotating through different people to lead this and kind of utilizing the playbooks that work the best for this. So this was a bit of like a thought process on, all this rolling up to things that support empowerment. So how does it all end?
I love it. You asked me what letter stood out to me, or like what. I think it just fits so well to everything that we talked about. We talked about how to like onboard people, the enabling part. We talked about the clear communication and roadmap, the tools. Ownership was like a topic we went into a little bit. I think the winning I didn't mention so much, but I think it's kind of just making people make people feel encouraged. If that, if that is like through a builder showcase or a tweet, or like you want to build something that people actually want to use, right? Or that people see as valuable. So I think that's a huge part. The metrics and weekly retro. In Ghana, there was also one workshop that was like kind of like data-driven growth, and it was just like how every startup, every app builder should learn how to use Dune, set up their bots, understand how to track their growth, how to run campaigns. Like if I talk to so many startups and they tell me all of the great things they do, and I'm like, can you give me a Dune bot? And they don't have a Dune dashboard. And I'm like, okay, so how do you evaluate your own work? How do you understand how do you even have the right framework to grow, because you're not analyzing anything that you do, and that's a crucial part of being successful and grow. So I love that point, and I think I love that it also goes from the empower, even like from the first one, which is very like onboarding, and it gets really deep, right? Like it also provides the right roadmap of the things that you have to take care of, because without the onboarding and the roadmap, you don't even need any tools. And then it's in the right order of tools, I would say. And like the repetition and iteration is so crucial, because like most of the time, why do people build something completely out without asking users? You can cut 90% of your app if you have something useful. So figure out what that is. Use some data-driven analytics, like understand where users go to, what they use most, focus on that, build that out. Don't build 50 features that don't work and make people frustrated. Have something small, have something clean, and make that work. I love it. I think it's very cool. That's so nice. I will use that.
Nice. I'll give you a little tag when I write a thread on it, maybe next week. But yeah, no, I definitely agree that there's an element of repeating an iteration on shaping these things. I think I really love how much you spoke about feedback. I think it's a really kind of slept on element from community that more projects and products in general should utilize more of. There's like a fairly common, also another separate, more standard framework in the kind of AI SaaS space from a guy that I really like, Greg Eisenberg. He's got a lot of good content. He's got this thing called the ACP funnel, which is when you're trying to build a really successful product as efficiently as possible, think about building like an audience, like the A, and how you can then turn that audience into more of an actual community that's passionate about this specific vertical or space. And then how do you leverage that community to give you the P, which is like product feedback. So like, how do you listen to their pain points, listen to the things that they're struggling with, and then leverage that, right? And so I also am on the same page of trying to optimize for feedback from your community as much as possible. And we've built a couple different feedback systems into our little ambassador management system components, so that these are much more co-created programs where we're actually learning more from them actually in the program themselves, versus then we're just like standing up from our podium of this is the way we think it should be. So I don't know, feedback's a great one, I think, to leverage more for people, right?
I agree so much, and it's still, I think, the biggest thing I'm trying to figure out how to scale that, because last year we had a lot of mentors that we would just assign to teams. I kind of like knew the mentor profiles and would assign it to teams, because if you let people do whatever they want to, it doesn't work. That's why you have Donut and all of these different tools for community building, because sometimes people need a little push in the right direction, and then it's so powerful, right? Like I think mentorship, networks, and just having people. And I think if you build a tool that kind of can leverage that, of somebody who's you don't I when I have 5 years experience, I don't need to talk to somebody with 1 year experience. The person with 3 year experience need to talk to the 1 year experience person, right? And to understand how to match people in the right way, and create community and this kind of network, I think that is so cool. I think exactly what I said in the beginning. When the community is right, you stay, right? And if you can, and that's crucial for ambassadors. That's crucial for developers. That's for any part. It's very important.
Nice. Well, cool. Now we're gonna like get into a little bit of a quick pace, kind of little rapid fire questions. Although some of them I feel like may have slightly longer answers, but I've actually got like a whole big long list. I'm just gonna pick a few out that I'm like, these are good ones based on our conversation. So if you're ready, I'm gonna shoot. If you had 10K in micro grants to give out next week, what are you funding?
That is not a quick question. That is such like I have to think about where to place my money the best way. I think I would probably do some kind of reward stream. It's like who I would probably say in the apps that already exist, who of you is going to make the most out of it? Who's going to prove me that you can onboard? Who does the best marketing campaign? Something like that.
Gotcha. Okay, these ones will be a little more easier.
Just challenge them. Do something that they don't know how to do, so they have to learn or hire somebody who knows how to do it. So like in it, find something that I feel like people are lacking in to like drive them in that direction. So like,
oh, that's interesting. I like that. That's a good answer. It's a good answer. Here's a good one. What's the most slept on country right now for Web3 devs? One country.
One country slept on. Oh, that is like such a. I can say like 50 countries right now. I feel like oh, I actually have a good one. I feel like Kazakhstan and like the whole area around Kazakhstan, there's like a few countries, and they have their first. They just started hosting conferences, right? And I feel like that area is very not recognized as having any kind of developers or impact or communities. But I feel like they are coming. They are coming. They start their communities right now, and they have beautiful nature. And they, I feel like that's something that people can slowly also move towards. I think so many areas have been hyped in the last years, so I feel like that's an area nobody has been talking about. But they're doing great work. There's one developer actually from the Celo community who has been in the Celo community for years, and he started one of the conferences.
Nice.
So yeah.
Yeah, and if you want, you can give another three or four shout outs if you got any other ones.
More countries. I feel like Tanzania has such high potential, but there's not so many developers, but there are some good ones, and somebody needs to bring them all together and build the community. Then I feel like the MENA region, they have like amazing devs, but I don't see some like we have Celo Arabia, and I have amazing friends from Egypt. But there's like I would love to see more devs coming from Tunisia, from Morocco, from Nigeria. I feel like there's a lot to get from.
All right, this one's a one-word answer. What's one word for Celo dev culture?
I that didn't do the heart. Crows. I don't know. I'm not a one word person. I would just say like.
You can have a couple words.
Okay. It's my favorite community. So that's it. Okay. A lot of love.
A lot of love. A lot of love. Good vibes.
Very good vibes.
Stellar vibes. Awesome. What about for yourself? Dark mode or light mode?
Such a good question. I kind of put dark mode everywhere, but I actually don't like it. So now it just like puts everything in dark mode and I get confused. And then also everybody vibe codes stuff and it doesn't work in dark mode. So recently I hate dark mode because I can't see shit. And I feel like I have to change my system settings, and I haven't done that yet.
Yeah, I've gone back and forth myself too with like, I feel like dark mode's more battery efficient, it's like not as much light coming into your eyes and whatnot. Maybe healthier for your eyeballs, but then also what's more aesthetically like pleasing and like faster to kind of pick through things. I don't know.
I have to, like, people can tell you my code, like my IDE, my Visual Studio Code now, my cursor, I had the craziest themes. They were always like bright pink, and people were like, "How the fuck? Why the fuck, Lena? Why would you do that?" And I was just like, "Because it's pretty. Because it looks so nice. I love it." There was like a lot of rainbow themes, and I enjoy it. Like, I don't need some dark coding thing. I love a little bright stuff. So.
Now, here's a good one. Just like as we start to get closer to wrapping, what would be a few teams or projects you would want to like shout out because like that kind of surprised you or had something really interesting or fascinating, maybe from what you saw in Ghana or in other places? I'm curious.
So one of my favorite projects in Proof of Ship, it's called Three-Wheeler Bike Club. What I think is amazing, they work with the communities, the tuk-tuk communities on the ground. They do user research before they build the product. They have a good business model of like getting people to invest in the three-wheelers, getting like monthly returns on their investment, and also enabling the drivers to build a credit score and a history to own like those rides at one point, which is normally like not very typical. So this is one of my favorite projects. Then I'm sorry, I have to always shout out MiniPay because I just think it's the best wallet. And to like for me for traveling, like I come to Ghana, I don't take cash. I just pay with Momo with using MiniPay. So I love using MiniPay for traveling. In Ghana, I really loved iExchange. They are a decentralized peer-to-peer exchange. They will also launch soon on MiniPay. And just an amazing team. So well connected, very good model, super strong. And yeah, then some good cards coming out of Africa that like enable people using credit cards like Zero Cash, Ugly Cash. What else? So and then of course I'm gonna chill. I'm sorry, but I love Self. It's so cool. It's like you can use your passport or any kind of biometric ID to prove your humanity, but in a private way. And now it's also I'm not sure. I think it's already launched. Like you can start using it with also like African ID cards, like not only passports but like ID cards. It's not like fully launched, so there's some alpha people have. And let me know when you test it and something doesn't work. You can tell that to me, but it should work and it's amazing. And yeah, I think it's just like so cool that everybody was so excited when I told them about Self. I think it's just such a cool identity layer. So yeah.
Nice. Those are good ones. And out of curiosity, will you be heading over to Korea and Singapore?
I will be in New Delhi for East New Delhi with the Self protocol. Supporting them a little bit on the ground. I was considering Singapore, but I have to say, something that I'm preaching, and a very dear friend of ours, you need to know your boundaries and you need to rest sometimes. You cannot be everywhere. So I will just go straight back home after Delhi, and I will not come to Singapore.
Nice.
Even though I know there's like lovely people. Will you be in Korea and Singapore?
Yeah, my first time doing Korea Blockchain Week, so I'm excited to go to Korea for the first time, and then yeah, Singapore after again. So yeah, it should be great. And then yeah, maybe next time we got a little more time, we can hang out some more in Lisbon. Obviously, we're neighbors, so
I still did not get invited for like your new apartment thing.
It's still not fully there. We're in the process.
There's, oh my god, if you're here, I'm sorry, this is not podcast material, but there's like pottery market thing, where you can buy a lot of nice pottery, and I'm going on Saturday if you're in Lisbon or Esteban. Yes, there we go.
Lisbon pottery, everybody. You know where to get it. Well, any sort of last closing comments that you want to leave everybody with?
I think, that's lovely. Listen to his podcast. This is an amazing host. Build community, because that's the foundation of everything. Do all of the mentorship. Like if you know you got something from somebody helped you, consider giving that further to somebody else. You don't have to give that back to that person, but you have to give it to somebody to honor whatever you got from the mentor you had in your life. And join communities, I think. And also, my last thing, I wrote that down in like all of the questions. When you join a community, don't just expect things to get from like you get the most out of a community by offering something yourself. If you just join and watch, the value you get out of the community is so low. And if you actually put something in, you will get a lot in return. So that's the best way to use community.
Pass it on and lean in. I love that. And if you're a leader, like empower your communities to lean in. That's nice.
Oh, empower.
That's right. And I pulled open your, you can go follow Lena for sure. Gigahertz, Devrel at Celo, and myself as well. We'll be posting these, maybe taking next week off from a travel perspective, but looking forward to keeping this going for the most part, and always bringing on great guests. This has been a super fun episode.
Because he has the best threads that will help you become very good in your prompt shortcuts.
Thank you. Nice. All right, everybody. We'll catch you on the next one.
Thank you so